Hey folks, this is going to be a video walkthrough of Chapter 3, Excel Tutorial 3. This is for Office 2019 or Excel 2019, and this is the Evergreen Fidelity insurance case. And then if you flip over to pages 2 and 3, you'll get a sense of what it is that we're going to be trying to build here. So this will be a little bit different and kind of using all the things that you've used so far with the Excel lessons in chapters 1 and 2. So if you go to page 4, so that's where we're going to begin. It's here. All right, so I think that's where I'm going to leave the book. We're going to open up our folder where we've got all of our belongings. We're looking for Excel, we're looking for Excel 3, we're looking for the module, and this is the guy that we're trying to open. So it's Evergreen Fidelity Insurance. So pay attention here because this one might be a little bit tricky. It's going to require you to just, you might even need a piece of paper or something like that just to keep track of things as we move through this, because it'll be a little bit more complicated for you. I don't think this, actually, I think this is probably the chapter where you're going to need to focus the most. I think the chapter 4 it's a little bit more interesting, I think. Because it has a lot more of the graphical display sorts of things. In this chapter 3, it's a little bit more heavy on the formula stuff. Okay, so just, take your time and, re-watch the video if you need to. So we're going to call this one the calls. Okay, so EX_3_calls. And that's in step 1. So we're going to save this. And I'm going to give it my initials there, save it into our spot. And then notice at the bottom you've got a bunch of different sheet tabs that are listed there. They want us to, step 3, go to the call center log and kind of review some of that information that's there. And notice that you've got headings, you've got some banded rows, which is the yellow and white. They want you to go next in step 1 on page 5, and this allows you to see some of the details that will help explain what things are. Okay, so for example, there's the explanation for days to seconds, days to minutes, minutes to seconds, etc., etc. So if you have questions about what something actually means, this is probably where it's listed. Okay, so they want us to go back to the call center log worksheet. And I'm going to page 6 now, calculating with dates and times. So in cell H5, so they want us to go to cell H5. That's the first blank, hold time seconds. They want us to enter the formula equals G5 minus F5. So equals G5 minus F5. And you should come up with 12:05 a.m. there. And in cell J5, they want us to make sure this is correct. So that's I. Here's J. Okay, J5, we want to enter the formula equals I5 minus G5 and press enter. And you should come up with 1220:37. and that's the duration. But this isn't actually what we want, because we want the duration, not necessarily the time of the day. And this is what gets some people into a little bit of trouble. So if we go back to cell H5 and change the formula to equals G5 minus F5 in parentheses multiplied by 24 times 60 times 60 again. Okay, so let's just re-enter this. Equals left parenthesis G5 minus F5 right parenthesis times 24, and we're going to times it by 60. Oops, 60, not 50. And multiply it again by 60. So times 24 times 60 times 60, and then press enter. And then it comes up with 12 o'clock. Okay, so we're going to go to J5, and we're going to change this formula to equals I5 minus G5. And a right parenthesis, multiply it by 24, and then multiply it by 60. All right, so let's go double check the H5. Okay, so it's equals G5 minus F5 in parentheses times 24 times 60 times 60. And then J5 is I5 minus G5 in parentheses multiplied by 24 multiplied by 60. And that looks correct as well. Okay, so now it says to select the non-adjacent range H5 and J5. So H5, I'm going to press the control key down and then click on J5. So I've just got those two cells. And on the Home tab in the number group, click the Format arrow and then click General. Okay, so you can kind of see that you've got a hold time of 5 seconds, and then the duration, minutes, is 20.616 something, something, something. And that is what it says you should be seeing in step 5 on page 3-7. Okay, then it says to come over here and to click on cell K5. Again, check your picture there on page 3-7. So think about this. It's 5 seconds the correct hold time. If the call was placed at 8 and it was answered at 8:00:05, that means that it was on hold for 5 seconds. The duration of 20 minutes, that comes out of the fact that the call was completed at 8:20. So it started at 8 o'clock-ish and lasted a little over 20 seconds. Okay. Moving over to page 8, 3-8. We want to use autofill to extend the formulas in cell H5. So if I click on cell H5, which is where there's a number 5 in it, down at the very right bottom corner of that cell, there is a tiny little dot. And if I hover over top of that little dot, it turns into a little plus sign. Black, thin-lined plus sign. So look closely. And you can click on that little drag handle and drag it all the way down. Now, alternatively, you could just double click on it and it'll carry that all the way down to the bottom of that list. And so that formula just keeps going and going and going until it gets to the bottom of the list, and then it stops. And so we just made 500 and some entries just by double clicking on that tiny little plus sign. So let me do it for you one more time. So if I move my cursor, generally it's going to be that big fat white plus sign. Move it over top of that corner, and then it begins, allows you to do that fill. And you could easily just drag it down to the bottom, but that's a pain in the neck. I think double clicking it is the way to go. Okay, so we want to go to page 9, 3-9, use autofill options button to copy only formulas. So click on the autofill options button. Okay, so I'm going to undo my last changes, and I'm going to double click that again. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom so you can kind of see this. There should be an options button here at the very bottom of the area that I just clicked or just filled. And you get some options here for that autofill. So you can do copy cells, fill formatting only, fill without formatting, flash fill, blah, blah, blah. They want us to click the fill without formatting. And now we get to keep all of the banded rows that we had originally. Okay, so now we're going to click on the cell J5, and we're going to carry that down as well. We'll go down to that autofill options button. Again, you got to go all the way down to the bottom here. And we're going to do that without formatting as well. Go back up to the top. And they want us to select cell D3. And you should have something that looks similar to what's in the book on page 9. So you get whole bunches of hold times and lots of numbers in the duration in minutes because you have all those decimal places there. Flip over to page 10. It gives you some information about filling series and using patterns and things like that. Obviously, the most familiar pattern that you might know is numerical order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, blah, 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 blah. You also might actually have a pattern that's repetitive, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You could also have other patterns that you might establish, and you could do those with numbers, you could do those with dates, you could even do those with text. So the idea of there being 4 quarters, that would make sense. Quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. And there's lots of other things that you could do as well. So you establish those patterns in Excel, and then when you copy that down, it extends whatever pattern that you've established. So the problem that most folks run into is they don't establish enough of a pattern in order for Excel to know how to do that. So for example, if you type 1, 2, 3, and then you extend your pattern, it may or may not do what you wanted it to do. It might just keep going with 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. But if you type 1, 2, 3, and then in the fourth cell do 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and then you drag that down, the pattern's established, and Excel should have a pretty good sense of how that works. Okay, page 11, extend the case number series in the call log. So in cell 5, E5, in the call center log, E5, case. So we want to type in case 50127. Case 50127. And I'm not adding any spaces or anything like that. Okay, we want to click on cell A5 one more time to select it. And then we're going to drag this fill handle down. Okay, so we get our little drag handle and we can double click it. And you don't actually have to go all the way down to the bottom. I just noticed that the fill options, autofill options is there, and they want us to autofill without formatting. Fill without formatting. And then it shows up similarly to all the others. Okay, so there's some other things that you can do to establish these patterns like this. And in this case, you can see that it's just doing them sequentially. So it's figured out that case is just a prefix, and then the 50 whatever is the number. Again, there's other ways for you to establish patterns, but just know that you can establish patterns instead of trying to get all fancy with it right now. Because once you find a purpose to use this, you're going to know it. You're going to know it for like dates and things like that. You don't want to have to type all that stuff. Let Excel do the work for you. Okay, so we're going to move over onto on page 12 at the bottom. There's a picture there. It gives you some ideas about these functions. So functions are pretty straightforward. A function is a tool that you could use that's partially built already in order for you to do something. So take, for example, a pencil. A pencil could do things for you. You might use it to write onto a piece of paper. You might use it to use the graphite on a hinge to make it move more easily. You might use it as a spitball gun if it were a mechanical pencil. You might use it as a weapon. You could use a wooden pencil as fire starter. Lots of different things. You could do lots and lots of different things. The other thing you can do with a pencil is you can erase things. So its function is not one thing. It has many functions, and most objects in the world have functions. In this case, these are Excel functions, so you can't touch them, but they're going to be able to do different things for you depending upon how you might want to use it. So examples of functions are averages, or sum, or mean, or median, or rounding. There's lots of different sorts of ways that you could use pre-built functions so that you don't have to do that work all by yourself. I think the best electronic example of a function is a calculator, because a calculator is just an object, but it could do a zillion different things. Like there's any number of numbers that you could type in, and any number of uh, addition, subtraction, multiplication, blah, blah, blahs that you could work with those. That's all functions are, is they're like mini calculators that do something particular. So move over to page 14. We're going to use the insert function dialog box with the round up function. So we're going to click on cell J5. So J5. And we're going to delete that formula. And on the ribbon, we're going to click the Formulas tab. And in the functions library group, so this is the functions library, we want to click on the insert function. Okay, so that's over here, insert a function. And then we're going to type round, R-O-U-N-D. And once we type the word round, click go. And then these are the different functions that we can use. So we don't want to use the round, we want to use the round up function. So double click on that. And in this first number group, we want to type in parentheses I5 minus G5. And then a right parenthesis. We're going to multiply that times 24, and we're going to multiply it again by 60. And then we're going to press or click down at the box below, and the number of digits is going to be 0. Okay, So we're going to round up to the next highest number. And if we choose OK, and then notice instead of having a really long decimal place, we just have a whole number. So now we can't just double click this little plus sign. We're going to have to drag it down now because there are values in there. And so we need to go all the way down to 515, which is there, and all the decimals should disappear once I release my mouse button. Okay. And then we want to click on our little autofill option, and we're going to fill without formatting, and that way our banded rows stays there. Okay, and there's our round up function. This is what it looks like. Okay. And if you ever get in trouble in Excel and you can't seem to move anything, it's probably a good idea to use the escape key. And the escape key kind of gets you out of whatever mode you might have been in that kind of got you stuck and might allow you to keep working. There's lots of other ways to round numbers. So, this is just one way. I think it would be normal for people to round, just use the round function and let it do it automatically by itself. Okay, so page 16. On page 16, we're going to use the max and min functions here. And these are going to do pretty much what you would imagine they're going to do. So if we go to cell B5, okay, so I'm in cell B5, and on the Formulas tab, we're going to click on More Functions, which is here, and we're going to go to Statistical. And then we're looking for the min function. And then once you find it, click on it. And then what we're going to do is, for number 1, we're going to use the F column. Okay, so there's two ways you can do it. You could type it like it says in the book, or you could just click on it, and you could choose OK. Automatically finds the minimum of all those numbers in that F column. And it should say 0.33333, but on the ribbon in the Home tab, so we'll go to the ribbon in the Home tab, go to the number format arrow, and then we're going to click on time. And so the first call of the day was actually at 8 a.m. And then click on cell B6. And we're going to do this for the max. So we're going to go back to Formulas, More, Statistical. I'm going to scroll down here and look for max. And then we're going to use the F column again and choose OK. And again, we need to change the format here from general to time. And so the last call of the day occurred at 5:59 and 49 seconds. And look in the book on page 7, or on page 3-16, step 7, and you'll see that answer is correct. So page 3-17, we're going to calculate total call center hours, calls per hour. So in cell B7, we're going to enter the formula equals left parenthesis B6 minus B5, and then a right parenthesis, and then multiply that by 24. And check your work. Looks like I missed a left parenthesis here. Get that in there, because that'll change the number if I'm not careful. And again, we'll have to change this to, right now, it's in time format, but we need to change that to number. So let's go to number. So the call center was open 10 hours. Okay. The total calls in cell B8. So we're going to enter the formula equals count left parenthesis F colon F. So equals count F colon F, right parenthesis, enter. So it looks like there was 511 calls during the day. Going to go to cell B9. We're going to type equals B8 divided by B7. And that's going to show up as 51.12. And we're going to go back up here to that answer. So cell B9. We're going to come here, go to number, and we should have two decimal places, 51.12 at this point. So then all of the decimals aren't being displayed, just the first two. So now we have kind of an idea about the number of calls that have been placed. We're going to do a little bit more though. Some analysis on averages, medians, things like that. So we're going to go to cell B12, click on the Formulas tab in the ribbon, click on More Functions, go to Statistical, and then this time we want to go to the average. So there's several averages. We only want average. Okay? And then in the number one box, let's clear that out. And this time we're going to have the H colon H, and then click OK. And it comes up with 27.4 blah, 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 blah. Okay. Okay, so step 5 says to click on cell B13. Repeat steps 2 through 4 in selecting median as the statistical function. So this time, I'm going to go statistical. We're going to look for median. And this time we're going to use H, again, H colon H. And this time the median hold time is 26 seconds. Click cell B14. So you can see how quickly this is going. There's mathematics like crazy going on in the background, but you're not the one calculating it. And so for those of you who aren't thrilled with doing math, this ought to be kind of fun for you. Let Excel do the work for you. Okay, so we want to do mode single, okay, for this one. So statistical mode single, okay? And again, we're going to use column H. I'm going to choose OK. And this time it comes up with 28. So some of these things you might not even know about or understand them, but if you were in this business, you might. So B15, enter the formula equals min, so it's just another way to do this, min H colon H, and then a right parenthesis. Notice I didn't type that, I just clicked and made it do it for us. So the shortest hold time was 1 second. Longest hold time, so this one's going to be the max. So we could do it like this. Max H colon H, close it up with a right parenthesis, enter. It was 163 seconds. So look on page 20 and you should be able to see an image that displays all those answers for you. So if you get confused, you can't see it on my screen or whatever, the book has all the answers for you. So it's not doing it for you, but it gives you the answers. I'm going to save my work, Control S. I'm at the bottom of page 20, and I'm going to calculate the length of some of these conversations. Okay. In cell B19, we want to enter the formula equals average of JJ. And if you notice, I've typed this in there. The way I can select average is by pressing the tab key, or you can click on it. And then this time we want it to be JJ. So click once on J. It automatically selects it for us. That looks correct. And 16 point something. Okay, so the median, cell B20, is going to be equals median tab JJ. Close it, enter it. Common duration, B21, equals mode.single. And I can use my arrow key, go down, press tab to accept it, and then this is going to be JJ. Close it, enter it, and then B22 is going to be the minimum, MIN, whoops. So equals min, left parenthesis, JJ, close it. And B23 is going to be the max, equals max, JJ, close it, enter it, 73 minutes. Okay, so take a look at the image on page 3-21 and just make sure yours is looking similar to that. Again, we're not doing a ton of formatting here. This is mostly just crazy formula stuff. Okay, for this next one, we're going to do a little bit of taking two things, two formulas or two functions, and putting them together. So the total operator work time, cell B24, we're going to type equals round and then a left parenthesis and then wait there. Step 3 says now type sum left parenthesis JJ right parenthesis, and that includes the nested sum function as part of that round function. But now we're going to divide that by 60, and now we're going to get it closed out. We're going to type a comma and a 0 and a right parenthesis. And then when we press the enter key, it should come up with 138. And so that is the total operator time that was used. And so similarly, in cell B25, we're going to type equals round, whoops. Okay, so equals round. And then that is going to be B24 divided by B7. And then there's going to be a comma, and then a 1, and a right parenthesis, enter, and it looks like workload per hour 13.8. And double check step 7, and that does indeed look correct. Okay, so then after you've completed the steps on page 3-22, flip over to page 3-24, go to the documentation sheet, and in cell B4, we're going to type equal sign today, left and right parentheses, hit the enter key. I'm going to put my name in there too, because I probably forgot to do that. Okay. And then skip over to page 3-26. Okay, page 3-26, go to the call center log, click on cell B7, okay, so once you're in cell B7, press the delete key, and don't worry about all the division errors that you're seeing. Okay, so make sure that in B9 and B25 you do see the arrows, or the errors, which is correct. So we're going to click on the undo button. And so when you see those divide by 0 errors, that just means that there's missing some values, or you're attempting to do something that doesn't make any sense mathematically. There are ways to trap for this as well. We'll get into that later in some more advanced spreadsheet stuff, but basically you can capture those divide by 0 errors and make them into something much more kind and meaningful. In other words, you're missing values or what have you. Okay, so this is part 1 of the Excel 3 tutorial, and we'll pick up on part 2 with the page 28. So take a break, come back, and you can finish this up. There's another 20 pages or so to finish this guy up. Okay, sounds good. Thanks.